I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. I am not the things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. I'm not the mistakes my family made. I'm one with the things that caused me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light, am light, I am light. I 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 am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my wrist, my soul inside. I am light. Oh, it's light. I am light. Oh, it's light. I am divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am the star. I am the piece of it all. I am light.
So beautiful. Thank you, Yaron, for bringing us into this Sunday morning with such peaceful and zen and calm music. It's a real joy and pleasure to have you with us this morning here at the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles. And a big welcome to you and the gift of your talent that you brought with us this morning. And I look forward to sharing in more of that later. So, once again, thank you and good morning. And good morning to everyone who's here joining us for the Sunday celebration service here at the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles in a virtual online world. Please know that you are acknowledged and celebrated and honored on this Sunday morning, whether you're joining us through Zoom, whether you're joining us through Facebook or other social media platforms, or watching us at a later date. We are here as a community to live out our vision statement of supporting individuals finding their personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. The song that Yaron just sang for us really gives us a template and an opportunity, a tool, if you will, to have this experience in our life of a spiritual awakening and supporting ourselves and becoming more personally self-empowered as we remember we're not the things that happen to us in life. We're not the experiences in life, but we are one with that power of life that is co-creative and that we are co-creative with it so that we may manifest and demonstrate and create and experience a life for ourselves where we know who we are as divine beings. So we come together every Sunday morning to have this experience and the opportunity to become more and more in tune with who we are as divine beings. And so today it's my great pleasure and honor to lead this service for us as we have this time together, and want you to know that we have a wonderful, fun service planned for you today. I'd like to take a moment and introduce you to our guest speaker, is the term that we've used, but she's certainly a soul sister of mine, and we're going to have a conversation later in the service about what's going on in life and how we can use this power to our own degree. I'd like to invite her online, Reverend Lola Wright. Would you turn your camera on and say hello to us this morning, Reverend Lola? And at the same time, if we can get Joel ready to do the same, that would be greatly appreciated. So Lola's going to... Hi,
Hi,
Lola.
Dr. Keith. I'm here. I can't start my video. It says the host stopped it.
I just gave you permission to.
Oh, thank you.
So
I'm
hi,
here.
Lola.
Hi.
How are you today?
Oh, I am good. I'm just feeling lots of feelings this morning. And so just sort of breaking my heart open a bit.
Good. Well, I look forward to us discussing that and letting Spirit guide you into a way of sharing what's going on and using that as both a stimulation and inspiration for our community. And so I'll speak with you later in the service. Thank you for saying hello to us, and a big hello to Joel Waggoner, who has just turned his camera on, is waving to us to share his talent of music and artistry with us today. Joel, thank you for being here with us today, and look forward to hearing your beautiful voice and your sharing your music with us. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you in a bit as you join us from Iowa, I believe, correct?
Yes.
Yes, wonderful. Well, as I said earlier, my name is Keith Cox, and my title is Reverend Dr. Keith Cox, and I am the spiritual leader here at the Center for let me take a deep breath there. At the Center for Spiritual Living, Los Angeles. We come together every Sunday morning, as I said before, to create a safe space for all individuals to find their personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. For us to take time throughout our day and our week to remember who we are as divine beings, to remember that we come together to honor the spirit that is within me, that also honors the spirit within you. And so as we share this time together, I invite each of you, if you're on Zoom, to keep your cameras turned off until after the service, when we'll have the opportunity to come together and commune in this virtual setting. But I invite you right now to take a deep breath in and to feel the energy that is deep within you. And as you exhale, place your hands together on your heart and lean forward. And just begin to feel this connection that we share with all of humanity. Namaste, I believe, is the way. To honor this place that we are united in energy, in life, in consciousness. And so as a community that has been coming together for over 30 years here in the city of Los Angeles, and now in this most unique virtual setting, I want you to know that on behalf of our Board of Trustees and our members, if you're new to us today, please know that we welcome all races, all religions, all countries of origins, all sexual orientations, all genders, all abilities, for we stand with you and you are safe here. And I invite you to hear these words, if you're new with us today, as stated by our community out loud, that was spoken each and every Sunday morning by our beloved founding minister, Dr. David Walker. We welcome one, and we welcome all. We open our service every Sunday morning with a ritual. It is called Calling in the Light. It's a ritual that gives us an opportunity to anchor ourselves into the oneness of life that I spoke of earlier, to honor the qualities of the divine that exist within each and every one of us and us collectively, which are peace, power, beauty, joy, light, life, love, and wisdom. This morning, as we honor the light that exists within each and every one of us, I invite you to go into the inner sanctum of your mind and use your visual abilities to see a candle that is being lit. As we move into this ritual called Calling in the Light. And so in our mind's eye, we light a candle, letting the flickering flame be a reminder and a remembrance to us of that ever-present power that exists within us, one of whose qualities is light. And so we begin with this prayer, beginning with the end in mind as written by Joshua Silver. I am you. You are me. We are one, and all is well. And so in this prayer, when we use the words change me, it's not beseeching or asking some external or exterior power to change us, but for us to use our own minds, and oftentimes in a state of surrender, to open up to aligning ourselves with the divine nature that already exists. And so we declare for ourselves, divine beloved, change me into someone who can give with complete ease and abundance, knowing you are the unlimited source of all. Let me be an easy, open conduit for your prosperity. Let me trust that all of my own needs are always met in amazing ways, and it is safe to give freely of my heart as my heart guides me. And equally, please change me into someone who can feel wildly open to receiving. Let me know my own value, beauty, and worthiness without question. Let me allow others the supreme pleasure of giving to me. Let me feel worthy to receive in every possible way. For I am you. You are me. We are one, and all is well. And with that, we will let Yaron take us into a song called Calling in the Light. Please feel free to sing along.
Calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love. Calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love. I am love, I am peace in my heart, I am free, I am spirit, I am soul, all together we are whole. I'm calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light, oh love. Calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love. Calling in the light of love. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is.
And so it is. We have affirmed and declared that we are love, peace, free, connected to our soul, for altogether we are whole. I declare and affirm for each one of us in this very moment. As we go deeper into our soul, we become more awakened and alive and aware to the oneness and wholeness that exist in and as life, and the most vital role that we play in this puzzle of the cosmos of life is to live our life with purpose and intention. And so I know for each one of us that today is the day that we let go and release any discomfort, any angst, any fear, any doubt, that we are worthy of this wholeness and this completeness and this perfection, and that we begin anew in this very moment to know that in a most visceral way. And we know that for each and every one of us that navigate this planet. And it's through this affirmation and declaration and conscious knowing that a vibrational frequency is emitted from us today, reverberating around the world, making a difference on our planet. And so we choose to be the gifts in action. We choose to be the blessings at play. We choose to be the difference that we desire. And we choose to do each and every one of these acts mentally, physically, emotionally, from a place of love. Love that is transcendent of that human emotion. The thing that Dr. Holmes says is the self-givingness of spirit whose desire is to create more of itself out of itself, and the only way that it can do that is through you and through me, and we say yes to being that channel and that vessel right now. And so we release this affirmative prayer, prepared and ready to know that the time we spend together in community supports an experience being made manifest of the very thing we desire. This indeed is unfolding as we say together in the privacy of our own space, and so it is. What a blessing that we have this morning to come together in this virtual world to not only hear wonderful music and to hear great messages and to feel this connection that we all share vibrationally. Our guest musician today, Joel Waggoner, who I introduced you to a moment ago, has an original song that he would like to sing for us. Joel, would you like to tell us a little bit about it prior to beginning?
I would. First of all, hi everyone. I'm so glad to be here. And if you hear little scampering paws, that's my dog Maurice coming to listen as well.
So Joel, I don't mean to interrupt, but can you just speak up, please? We're having a hard time.
Of course. Can
Yeah.
you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, I was getting so intimate. If you hear a little dog scampering behind me, that's my dog Maurice coming to worship with us today.
Wonderful.
This song I wrote a while back in a way to sort of deal with how helpless I felt with all of the things that are going on in the world. And I just wasn't sure where to start or what to do. And then I was reminded of, the fact that just having air in my lungs allows me to continue to be someone who can contribute at least something positive to the world. And so this is a song I wrote called Sing, a little bit about what we can do in the face of some hopelessness.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. You know what? That's not in tune, so hold on. It's crucial if we're going to put positive energy in the world that we be in tune, right? Okay. Come over here and sit next to me, where water used to be. Sit with me and look at the sky, where the seagulls used to fly. And I ask myself, what do I do now? 'Cause I'm lost and I don't know how. So I take my lungs that still have breath, and I sing of love stronger than death. I am only one. I can't do anything, but I will sing. Sing. Oh, I will sing. Come over here and hold my hand, where there was a wedding band. Hold on tight, I won't let you fall. I'll pick you up and over this wall. And I ask myself, what do I do now? 'Cause I'm lost and I don't know how. So I take my lungs that still have breath, and I sing of love stronger than death. I am only one. I can't do anything. I am only one, and I will do anything, and I will sing, 'cause it's everything I know. I will sing, 'cause I have no other place to go. I will sing till the world sings along to my song, to my song. So I take my lungs that still have breath, and I sing of love stronger than death. I am only one. I can't do anything. I may be only one, but I will do anything. I may be only one, yeah, but I will do anything, yeah, and I will sing. I will sing. I will sing. I will sing.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
So wonderful. Thank you for the original music there. And also thank you for the reminder that we are conceptually only one, but we're one in and as the one, and that we are called here to do our part. So thank you for that. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. I look forward to seeing you after the conversation I have with our beloved Lola. So thank you. See you in a bit.
Bye-bye.
Hi. So Lola Wright is going to join us now. She's on camera. I see her there. Um, I want to introduce Lola before we begin to our community. Lola is a change maker in the world. She's a woman who is of great insight and wisdom and passion and compassion, who has a very long resume that's filled with all types of credentials that I would be happy to read to you. But at the end of the day, those are just words on paper that support who you are as a being, that have made a commitment to make a true difference on our planet. And thank you for that. So thank you for being here, Lola. Would you like to be
Thank
called
you.
Reverend Lola or Lola?
I'm good with Lola.
Okay,
Mhm.
good. Good. So Lola is here with us today. As you know, as a community, once a month we are having what's called Conversations with Keith, and today is one of those days. And Lola and I are going to have a conversation that will be the message that we have, and I'm going to pick some quotes to read to stimulate our conversation. And then from there, we'll see if any of you have questions that you would like to ask either Lola or me. Please feel free to put them in the chat window that's here on Zoom as well as through Facebook Live, and you can get those to us, and we'll be happy to answer those on the second portion of this. And so, just as Joel was singing about in today's world being a unique world, and I know that it's both individually unique for all of us in the world, but I know you're going through some changes in your world, Lola, based on just my knowing that in our conversation today. So the first quote that I'm going to read to us to stimulate this is this: the universe is not punishing you. It is simply sending you lessons and experiences needed for the evolution of your soul. You're always being pushed to grow. The things that you are going through are for your highest good and the highest good of others. What are your thoughts on that?
Certainly, my experience doesn't make it any more comfortable. But yeah, I think we draw unto ourselves, both personally and collectively, that which is needing and wanting to move us into a greater experience of expansion. And so we're oftentimes revealing our unconscious parts to bring them forward so that they can be healed, transformed, recalibrated, and reminded of the truth of existence, of life. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. I speak oftentimes, and one of my mantras in my ministry is that we're called here to either be tending to the evolution of our soul or not. We are either evolving or we're
Mhm,
devolving, if that's the right word.
mhm.
So yes, that's my feeling and belief, and I do believe that in that, what I think that so oftentimes people get confused regarding evolution, that they think that it's this consistent move upward into a spiral of higher consciousness, but it's not that. It's, you know, it's literally that 2 steps up, 5 steps back, 4 steps up, 1 step back, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And our role in that is to be awake and alert and alive to what's transpiring, and to remember that we're not our experiences. We're not the effect. We're not what's going on, but we are one with that, that gives rise to that changing in a way that we desire, right? But
Yeah, I feel like, yeah.
go ahead. No,
Sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, I was just when I hear you say that, and what feels true for me in the work that I'm doing and in just what I'm witnessing, is there's like this deep desire for spiritual maturation.
Yes.
And when I hear you say all that you just said, it's like, oh, so what you're telling me is that evolution doesn't mean rainbows and unicorns.
No.
And it's like, yeah, exactly.
Well, it can mean rainbows and unicorns, but it
Sure.
doesn't mean that that's always going to be the case. One of our conversations before I had was with Dr. Jim Lockhart, and he was talking about what we're called to be today is to quit attempting to nurture our inner child and to nurture our inner adult, right?
That's so great. I
Right?
love that.
That we're here to not just philosophize on
Mm,
our philosophy,
mm. That is it. That is
right?
precisely it. Mhm.
And so that calling isn't because life is teaching us lessons. Dr. David Walker used to get all upset when he would say, life can't do that. And I agree with him, life can't do that. But certainly we can attract into our world opportunities to learn from
Yes.
what's going on. And if we don't, we're really not being a conscious evolutionist, you know.
Yeah, I think sometimes people can misunderstand some iteration of what you just read to think that there's some universe separate and outside of us that's
Uh-huh.
teaching us a lesson. And I don't think that's at all what that's saying. It's that we are intrinsically connected to all of existence and we are always calling forward that which wants to be known. We're always bringing our unconscious parts to view
Right.
such that they may be transformed, transmuted, activated, amplified, healed, like whatever you want to say.
Right. Good. All right. So the next quote I have is there's no better, and I know this is going to be appropriate for you based on where you're at in the stage of your life. There's no better time to start working towards your dreams than right now.
Yes. I would say, and that's all we ever have anyway, right? So it's like in this now moment, who and what am I here to be, to do, to create? Yeah, that feels very, it's very easy to, this is what this reminds me of. I remember when my brother he was, had been married a couple years and his wife was like, I want to have a baby. I want to have a baby. And he had this number of dollars that needed to be in his bank account. And at that point, he'd be ready to have a baby. And I was like, dude, you'll get to that number and then there'll be another reason. Like, I'm not saying that you can't intentionally create when you want to have a baby, but like, there isn't ever going to be a perfect set of circumstances to bring forward the dream, the vision, the desire, the hope, the wanting. When it moves in you, let's go.
I agree with you. What that quote speaks, what speaks to me regarding that quote is a little different in the sense that what it reminds me of is now's the time to remember that we have the ability to dream.
Mm,
So
that's
for the
great.
dream to come true, we have to stop and begin to dream.
Mm,
And I think that and I know I can speak this is for myself as well during these last 5 months where it has felt for me, and I know that that's true for many people, that this pandemic and then what has subsequently transpired on our planet and certainly in the political arena, um, just dealing with the minutia of every day has
mm,
been exhaustive energy
mm,
wise. And I'll speak for myself, at moments have allowed it to be a prohibitor to stop and begin to dream again. And
mm,
so now what this reminds me, and I believe it does for most of us, is that let's begin to dream again as to what's
mhm,
possible. Right?
mhm.
And it doesn't have to be that I'm going to rid the world and the universe of plastic, right? I mean, that's a big dream. But it
Mhm,
could be, I may do that for myself today, but it also could be how can I make a difference in the lives of people that are around me today so that I create a shift to just propagate good. Like
mhm,
that in alone, if that dream were to come true for 60% of us,
mhm.
then imagine the difference we're making on on the planet and in our world.
Yeah, the thought that comes up for me around that is, I'm imagining those of us that are gathered here today to some degree say we are philosophers, practitioners, whatever of this thing called oneness, right? And that's like a big idea that can live very conceptually and very cognitively. And so if I am committed to the actualization or the realization of oneness in the human experience, I am in a reconciliation of where is that not fully alive in me.
Yes.
And so it's like I can take on major global issues or major national issues. And to your point, it's not that may not be mine to do, but oftentimes those can also serve as distractions from the work that lives right where I am. So
Yeah.
like this morning, I had a couple conversations with family members where I just felt a greater sense of disconnection then I felt connection. And I'm more committed to connection than I am to disconnection. And
Yes.
so I could distract myself around politics or, any number, like list them. And or I could go, where does this live right where I am? And what influence do I have in that? And it meant lots of tears. It meant reaching out to people that I could more easily write off and just put in a box in my head and X out of my heart. But that would be a breach of integrity if I say I'm a practitioner of this philosophy of oneness.
Girl, you are preaching, and I know that because that was my experience as well. Literally, right before we went live, I had read a post from a friend, I should say, I'm about a dear friend, that I vehemently disagree with everything that's being purported on her social media site, and I immediately wanted to react to that, right? And then I thought, well, here I am about to give a Sunday morning service, right? And I'm wanting to stir the pot. Like, is that really the right thing to do? But I came to the answer, no, it's not. I can honor her, I can love her, not stir the pot, and I can also hold my opinion at the same
Yes.
time, right? So going back to what you were just speaking of the philosophy and philosophizing, it reminds me of, Ernie says that the teachings of the science of mind is a philosophy and a faith and a way of life. But he also said that information without application is hallucination. And so what we're called to do and be is aware of what's going on in our mind and then choose whether we want to or not to do something with it and about it. Right?
Wait,
So
can you say that again? I want to actually get that. Can you say
which
what he
part?
said again? The hallucination part.
Yes, information
Yeah.
without application is hallucination.
That is so good. May we all take that into our practice this week.
Well, the CSL-LA community knows that I love that quote and I use it often. So, and there again, I think it takes us back, or I'll speak for myself, but also as the leader here, is that once again, that application does not necessarily mean that you have to heal the world.
Yes.
What it means is it's in that very moment, ask myself, what is out of alignment, right? How can I apply what I know as truth of oneness, that I am peace, power, beauty, joy, light, life, love, and wisdom, and that I live in a universe that is governed by spiritual law, and I'm experiencing life to the degree of my consciousness right now. So if I want my experience to be different, I must tend to my consciousness and have it be different. And that's not about going external. That's staying within and just feeling it in a process and then doing the action that is required.
Yeah, what comes to my mind as I hear you say that, I'm just sort of like mapping that onto my own practice. And what comes to my mind are like the three centers of intelligence that I focus a fair amount on. And, so in our culture, we're very much identified with the mind, our IQ.
Yes.
And we oftentimes are dislocated from our feelings or our EQ, our emotional intelligence, and our BQ, our body intelligence.
Oh.
And what I'm like really always playing with is, and actually I'm mapping this on to the creative process, spirit, soul, body.
Right.
So like, I'm very interested in my own practice to like, there's that which I can understand intellectually. Then I want to move into my emotional state, which I can most easily access in my body. And I think that our willingness to practice self-awareness around our IQ, our EQ, and our BQ enables us to move out of the reptilian brain where our reactivity lives. We are living in a hyper-reactive human existence right now. And we can either play into that and amplify that more, and there are lots of outlets for that, or we can notice the tendency to have the reptilian brain respond and then choose moving into a higher state of consciousness where we have a more integrated sense of self. So
I love that, because when we speak of the reptilian brain, which I love that term, because it certainly gives a visual, And it's much like you and I were talking about yesterday in that brief conversation about, well, hey, is that reptilian brain a good thing? The universe took care of the dinosaurs. Thank you, Sandy Rivetta, who's on the right. But when we look at, if we're living from letting our reptilian brain be the dominant aspect of our life, and we're not tending to it, then its innate nature is fight or flight.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
So then we will be governed by those responses, which are very
Yes,
in an opposition, which then
yes,
we are then living moment by moment in opposition, right?
yes,
And oftentimes that's being governed by something that is so deep, our
yes,
consciousness, and just by the term reptilian goes to show you how long it's existed, right? And if we really understand consciousness, that consciousness is infinite by nature, then we're letting something govern us that is so beyond our own control,
yes.
unless we choose to tend to it. And even
That's
though we're not
right.
controlling it, we're just putting our we're using our ability to impact it,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And this to me is the brilliance of this philosophy,
Right.
and what the error can be at times in what I witnessed, some of our application of it is, we want to jump from the body, so that bottom segment of the metaphysical chart, right, the world of
Right.
form. We want to jump up to the top third, and we want to circumvent that middle section, which to me, the middle section, the subconscious mind, the houser of our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our opinions, our memories. We want to circumvent that, what most of us would call spiritual bypass, right? We
Right.
go right from the condition to the absolute
Right.
truth, which is not wrong. It's just, there's a process of integration, untangling, understanding, the shift in consciousness. I mean, very few in the human experience are able to just make that large of a leap, that big of a shift. It's not that it's not possible, but to me, you know, our humility would actually enable us to sit in the soul, in the subjective mind, the subconscious mind, and get wildly curious. What is happening in the collective consciousness of existence that would serve up this set of circumstances and conditions at this moment in the evolution of the human experience?
Right. So I have two things for that. One is, so that perfectly leads to the next quote, which is a quote, one of your quotes. And I want to address that in a two-part way. So it says, divine discontent is an invitation to ask, who are you to be? What is yours to do? So I'd like to have you address that, but I'd also like to hear you address that from the perspective of being a spiritual leader, an awakened individual, and a mother of four beautiful beings on this planet who range in age, right? And are having probably radically different experiences during these times of unrest,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
Because your oldest child is a woman, a young
mm-hmm,
woman,
mm-hmm,
right? And then your son, Trey, is now what, 20, 20,
20. Mm-hmm,
20. And then you have two younger children who I don't know them, but tell me their
mm-hmm.
names and their ages.
Caroline is 11 and JP is 8.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know just based on my history with Trey is that there's a lot of emotion around the world, treats him as a young African American man,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so,
Yeah.
I get emotional talking about that. So, can you speak to us about what this journey has been like, being just in general a mother and a
Mm-hmm.
leader and all of that during these times of late?
Yeah. It is really interesting. You know, my older two kids, their dad is Black. My younger two kids, their dad is white. And we have always had lots of conversations about race in our home at our dinner table. So, um, you know, the first thought that I have is, I really have come to trust my body, my intuition. Like, it's such a great source of wisdom for me. And so if I just look at like the twists and turns of my own career or my own path, you know, my divine discontent has really served as an informant, you know. And I think so many of us are raised to not trust ourselves, and
Mhm.
so then there are these nudges that we get and we're like, "Ah," and one of my great desires is just to support human beings in the ability to trust the wisdom of the nudge, of the that lives in each of us. So I'll just say I'm very, very devoted to that practice. I trust discontent in me. I do not make it wrong. It doesn't mean I'm supposed to immediately respond or react, but I take it as information. So that comes up for me. You know, the next thought that's coming up for me is, you know, we went to the first protest in Chicago in the wake of George Floyd's murder. And we took all of our kids. We actually took 3 cars because it was a caravan protest. So we had all 3 of our cars, and we have 7 people that live in our house. So we spread ourselves among those 3 cars. And there was a moment about 4.5 hours in to the protest that I could feel the energy of the experience shifting. And I took that, not saying it's right or what anybody else should do. I'm just saying I took that as, this is my time to leave. This is like, I have contributed what feels like is an alignment for me to contribute, and now I'm choosing to leave. Now, half of our family stayed, and I took the little kids home. I guess I share that story because I think we each have a responsibility to pay attention to what is ours to do in any given moment. There is, you know, what I love about this philosophy is it's not dogmatic. There is not a way that you and I are all supposed to respond. And so what was true for my son and daughter was that they were to stay, and they stayed. What was true for me was I was to leave, and I left. And all of that can coexist. You know, it's interesting. My 8-year-old son said one night as I was putting him to bed, it was something to the effect of, you know, I just feel like, you know, so it was something like, you know, because I'm white, I feel like I'm the bad guy. And he wasn't saying that like intellectually. That was not like a philosophical inquiry. It was like, at a body level, I feel scared because given the way I hear us talk about what's happening on the planet right now, as a little 8-year-old guy, I process that as I'm the bad guy. And it was like, wow, JP, I so appreciate you sharing that with me. And that's not actually the conversation we're having. But in his little brain, that's how he hears it, right? And so then we get to have a conversation like, actually what we're critiquing are systems and structures and policies and positions that move through human beings and affect human beings, but who you are as a, you know, white 8-year-old boy is not inherently bad and wrong. And both of those things can exist.
How
that's
wonderful.
helpful.
Absolutely. Well, it reminds us that no matter where we're at on the journey of our evolution, right, that we can play a role in that. And even JP is aware enough to speak his truth.
Yes.
Right? And he also has trust and faith in you, right, and his family environment, that he can speak that and there will be healing that comes from it. Right. So he may not understand that from the intellectual perspective of our teaching, but he understands it from the perspective of this divine discontent in me needs to be addressed.
Yes.
So if we are to shift the systems that we're talking about, all of that is required. You know, it is all required. And as the beloved Dr. Maureen Hoyt always says, is we need to always remember that we live in an and world, not an or world, right? So.
Yes, I always say, how could both of those things be true?
Right. Oh, that's that's a great question, really. But yeah.
Like the conversations I had with a few family members today involved, you know, sort of some polarizing perspectives on what the problems of the world are and how those problems need to be addressed. And, you know, as I sense into what feels true for me and I sense into what I hear being said by these other individuals, it's like all of it makes sense to me. All of those perspectives make sense to me. And if we're looking for if we're orienting ourselves to say, well, which one is right? Game over. We're already losing.
That's so wise.
You know? But if we can sit and be like, tell me more, I want to understand that perspective more deeply. And if we do that in concert with another, which, you know, for some sounds very Pollyanna,
Well, no, I agree with you, because after I had my experience prior to us coming together, as I was taking a shower to get ready, I kept asking myself, what would it feel like to have a conversation with this woman that I love and
Mhm,
be open to her answers,
mhm.
right? Because I know myself, and I know that if I had engaged then, I would go in for battle, right? And I
Yes.
know that when I go to battle, I go to win.
Yes.
But if I'm willing to step far enough back and trust the evolutionary process within me, which
Mhm,
exists within all of us, then
mhm.
it can guide me to a place of love and compassion and understanding, right? And
Yeah. Well, the other thought I have is, what if you showed up to that conversation with your heart open versus your heart guarded? Like, like I called a family member this morning and was a weepy mess. And I mean, could almost barely speak. And I am like a masterful communicator. And afterwards, I was a little embarrassed. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I showed up that untethered to this conversation. And I called my brother, and he's like, but that's a beautiful thing. Like, he may never like have that as a practice. And so you demonstrating your messiness and in the spirit of love, like, how beautiful.
Oh, so beautiful. So the last quote that I have for us is, and it's also a Lola Wright quote, which I love. Whatever we do in conscious, loving union with the reality right in front of us is prayer.
Hmm. I'm like, where are you getting these quotes? Those are really great.
Oh, girl, I'm out there stalking your social media.
Oh. Yeah, will you say that one more time again? I
Sure.
just want to see, like, what did I mean there?
Whatever we do in conscious, loving union with the reality, uppercase R,
Yeah,
right in front of us is prayer.
yeah. Huh. That's interesting.
What's a
Yeah,
little bit of what you've been speaking on.
yeah, yeah. And I guess what comes to my mind as I hear that is like, and of course, we probably are all familiar with this again cognitively, but the distinction between um, that which we can, sort of the facts of the world, and then the truth of reality. And how do we reconcile those two things? And again, I think, and this perhaps speaks to the quote that you led with from Jim Lockhart, like our ability to mature into the capacity to hold both of those things at the same time. Because historically, what we may do is really deny the facts of the world in reverence to the truth. And I'm not saying that there's not value in doing that, but I think, like when Ernest Holmes says turn entirely away from the condition, he's not saying pretend like it doesn't exist.
No.
And that's the big misnomer. I think that's where we get a little tripped up.
I agree with you. And I think it's also important to kind of bring this full circle is that the minute we enter into a battle mentality
Mm,
or a right wrong mentality, right, or a win
yeah,
lose mentality, we're also moving into a fight or flight mentality.
that's
So we're
exactly right.
reverting back to that reptilian brain. My interpretation of your quote here is whatever we do in conscious loving union with the reality, uppercase R, right in front of us is prayer. It's exactly what we were just speaking of looking at what is going on in our reality, that
Mm,
uppercase R. What are we experiencing? And can we come to that from a place of being conscious, meaning
mm.
like, what the hell's really going on in my brain right now? Like
Yes.
what you said you did with your family, right? What I
Yeah.
did with the social media thing this morning. And then ask myself, and these are questions I like to ask myself oftentimes is, what do I believe in this very moment? Right? What do I believe is possible
Mm,
in this very moment? And do I believe in a power that is greater than me?
mm,
The answer is yes. And has it ever failed me?
mm, mhm,
And the answer, of course, is no, it hasn't. And then, well, it never will. And
mm,
so lean into that, which is then that prayer part, because
mhm.
so often we're all believed, once again, reptilian brain, old brain, even maybe reptilian new thought brain, which is
Totally.
prayer is dropping hands to your heart, following 5 steps, 7 steps, 8 steps of treatment. Did I get this? Like, that's not what it is. It's
Mhm,
becoming aware of our ability to use our mind in a way to create a different state of mind.
Yes.
And then from that different state of mind, being willing to trust that unfailing power to bring into our experience a reflection of it.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
might happen in 8 seconds. It might not happen for 8 years, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Because the law is not governed by time, right? So our role is to keep tending to that process, those questions, all of those. Well, Lola, I love you. I love you
I
with
love
all
you
my
too.
being. I'm going to close with a quote from you. She's like, girl, where are you getting this stuff? That says this, a Lola Wright quote: slow down, enjoy yourself, play, and have fun.
Yeah.
So I can speak for myself, and I know that I can speak for our community. Well, I'm going to speak for myself first. I've never been with you when we haven't had fun. We got to know each other over a little tension right at first years ago, but we've moved that into fun, and we've always had fun. Today has been an example of that again, a reflection of it. And I want to do more of that. I'd love to do more of that in this setting as well. I know that for our community, they're all loving being in your presence energetically, and your wisdom and your light. Thank you for that. Thank you for everything that you have done on this planet and all that you are going to do. I know that you're launching a new podcast and a new blog or vlog very soon. You're looking at writing a book, and you do coaching as well. So everyone can find out all of your information from lolawright.com, correct?
Yep, you got it.
And follow you all on social media. Well, wonderful. Thank you. I love you. Big claps to you. I'm going to say goodbye to you for the moment while Joel comes back and sings a song for us. And then I'm going to invite you back at the end to give some form of prayer or meditation or something along the lines of that. Are you good? I love you, my soul sister. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I know that you all enjoyed that as much as I did. It's my honor and pleasure to bring back to our virtual stage Joel Waggoner, who's going to sing a song that will continue this energy that we're feeling, and that is titled Being Alive, correct?
Yes. Yes.
All right, Joel Waggoner, everyone.
Somebody hold me too close. Somebody hurt me too deep. Somebody sit in my chair and ruin my sleep and make me aware of being alive. Being alive. Somebody need me too much. Somebody know me too well. Somebody put me up short and pulled me through hell and give me support for being alive. Make me alive. Make me alive. Make me confused. Mock me with praise. Let me be used. Vary my days.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Joel. How fantastic.
Thank you.
So wonderful. I could tell you were very much enjoying singing that song.
Oh,
So
come on. Why
thank you.
not? It's great. It's a
It
great
was
day for it.
yeah, fantastic. You're getting all kinds of kudos. So
Oh, thank
thank
you.
you so much for being here with us today. It's been a real pleasure to have you here and just
Always a good
love,
time. Thank you.
yeah, I love the energy that you bring. So thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Keith.
Thank you. So I'd like to let everyone know that now is the time in our gathering this morning to participate in the opportunity for conscious giving to support our community financially so that we may continue to um, give and thrive and share our wisdom with you in the world and support you in finding your personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. The opportunities to do that right now are to go to our website, CSL-LA.org, and you can click on the donate tab and that will take you through the PayPal site. You can do that as well as our app in the App Store, which is the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles. You can click on the upper left bars and the screen will come up and see the donate tab. If you're not using that app, I invite you to go into the App Store and add it to your mobile device and use that. We have all types of wonderful things on that app that will support you on your journey in life. You can also mail in a check. The address is 1200 North La Brea Avenue, West Hollywood, California, 90038. Or if you'd like to handle that personally with me, my phone number is on the screen. I'd just like to let you know that we appreciate all that you do to support us on this journey of a spiritual community, making a difference here in the city of Los Angeles and beyond. While we all take our time to facilitate that, Yaron will take us through our giving song, Love is My Decision.
Love is my decision. It's up to me to give up my heart. Love is my decision. It's up to me, no one can tell me to start. And once I decide to change my mind, the source will show me how. Love is my decision, right here, right now.
And so as we affirm for all of us that we stand in the bounty of the good that exists in the universe, remembering that we are one with the only thing there is, whose nature is of prosperity and abundance and good. And so we choose today to give in a way that is reflective of our understanding and acceptance and expansion of this good that exists by means of the power that gives us life. And so we give today, not out of fear, but with faith. We give today with an open mind and open heart, remembering those words of beloved Dr. Walker that one cannot give with a clenched fist. And so we literally open our hands and extend to give today, not looking at it as hocus pocus, but understanding the law of circulation, the law of abundance, the law of reciprocity. And so we give knowing that what we give in life returns to us multiplied abundantly. And so we give consciously as conscious givers, and so it is. So I'd like to give out a shout out and a thank you to our guest musician today, Joel Waggoner. Joel, thank you so much once again for bringing your gifts to us on our line. It's such a pleasure to have you here, and we love having you here. And stay safe and stay cool in Iowa.
Thank you very much.
Stay away from those tornadoes that come rolling through there.
Oh my gosh.
I know my son who lives in Iowa City, Iowa, it freaked him out last week. So crazy. So, but thank you for being here. A big thank you to Yaron Spiwak for all that you bring with us, to us, and as us, and your innovative nature, and just always your commitment to making a difference here at the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles. A shout out and a big thank you to Travis Smith, our audio man, who takes such great care of us and keeps us in line and support. Lola came on this morning at rehearsal and said, wow, you have such amazing support here, and we do. And Travis is certainly a part of that, as is Robert Hensley. So a huge thank you to Robert, who exists for us out there in the virtual world and does such amazing work to keep us intact, both through social media perspective and as the administrative assistant. To all of you, a big thank you. And a huge thank you to our guest this morning, the one and only Lola Wright. So Lola, thank you for being here with us today, and know that you are loved and appreciated. On that note, I'd like to hand it over to you to close us out in a meditation or prayer or whatever feels good for you. Before you do that, I'd like to announce to our congregants or community that's online via Zoom, feel free to stay on after we say "and so it is," and I will guide you through turning your cameras on and your audio to say hello to each other. After we end that prayer, those of you that are on Facebook know that we will release you out into the ethers of the internet, knowing that we love you and appreciate you and celebrate you for being a part of who we are at the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles. It's with great devotion and admiration and love I hand it over to you, Lola Wright.
So in the spirit of appreciation, I just want to acknowledge Dr. Keith and your leadership of this community. I bow so deeply to what it takes to lead a spiritual community in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of a presidential election season, in the midst of a paradigm shift that is happening globally. So deep bow to you, Dr. Keith. And a lot of appreciation to this entire community. You know, it takes something to show up when things are moving and shifting and changing. It's really easy to show up when things are like just as you like them. So I just have a lot of appreciation for the willingness to show up in the midst of transformation. So with that in mind, I just invite us to take a deep breath and close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Begin to deepen the breath into the belly, perhaps paying particular attention as the breath enters the nose and exits the mouth if that's comfortable for you. As you deepen your breath into your belly, you begin the somatic experience of interrupting the experience of scarcity that so many of us create for ourselves at a physical level. So as we deepen the breath, we breathe in the abundant nature of this now moment. We allow ourselves to feel, to fall, to fold into the loving presence of all that is, nearer than our breath, vaster than our being. And so as we breathe in together this day, I am reminded by the amplifying power and presence of two or more when gathered. So I know that as we gather here this day, we are amplifying the presence of the infinite. We are moving beyond the limitations of our circumstances and conditions. We are dropping more deeply into the presence of love, of freedom, of wholeness, for that is the nature of who I am and what I am. And as I know that to be true for me, I know that to be true for each of us here, that we are each the individualized manifestations of love, of wholeness, of freedom. And so we bow deeply to that knowing here this day. I know that as we gather and practice, we raise up the entire human experience and this planet, realizing that we are in some kind of divine discontent, some kind of holy disruption. But what I know to be true is that there is only good, that it is a delusion of the thinking mind that perceives a kind of dualistic existence of right, wrong, good, bad. And through the power of this moment, through collective consciousness, we transcend the limitations of that reality into a higher state, the high altar of consciousness, where good exists always, all the time. And so I just breathe in deeply, knowing that we are reminded this week of our inherent oneness, our inherent goodness, that we are moved in all that we say and all that we do to seek the good, to seek peace, to seek understanding, and not as a kind of listless love. For the root of this word love comes from the Aramaic and Semitic traditions, which means to bring the fire. So we bring the fire of love into our places and spaces this week, into our heart, into our mind. And I know that there is a state change, that we are open and available to a state change, a change in consciousness, a shift in a greater experience of love. And so I know that this is done. I let it be. I give great thanks for this powerful and potent community. I know that the city of Los Angeles is altered and that human consciousness is altered by virtue of this gathering. So all is well here. With deep gratitude, I let this be. And so it is.
And so it is. Namaste and